The night was thick with smoke, laughter, and the clinking of cheap beer bottles when it happened. A quiet woman walked into a bar full of roaring bikers, men twice her size, all leather and tattoos, voices echoing like thunder in the dimly lit room. She wasn't dressed to impress, her shirt was plain, her jeans worn, her hair tied back as if she had no care in the world for looks or opinions. Yet there was something in her presence, something unshakable, that made her stand out even before the cruel laughter started. One biker, already half-drunk and looking for entertainment, decided to make her the night's amusement. He tugged at her shirt roughly, laughing with his friends, expecting her to cower, to shrink, to disappear. But when the fabric tore and the ink beneath was revealed, silence fell like a storm had been cut short. A bold, undeniable symbol stretched across her shoulder blade, a Marine Corps tattoo. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that show the strength hidden in ordinary people, then please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Ripple of Hope, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded of the courage that still exists in the world. Your support helps us keep telling stories that matter. The biker froze, his grin fading. Around him, the rowdy bar stilled, as if everyone suddenly remembered respect they thought they had forgotten. She didn't shout, didn't threaten, didn't even flinch. She simply stood tall, her tattoo telling a story of battles fought, sacrifices made, and courage most in that room couldn't begin to imagine. But behind that steady gaze and steady hand, there was a story of struggle, of loss, of resilience carved through pain. A story that would make even the hardest men in leather choke back tears if they only knew. Her name was Claire. To the outside world, she looked like a simple woman who had lived a rough life in silence, her presence unnoticed in the bustle of ordinary days. But once, not too long ago, she had worn a different uniform. Once, she had been a Marine, standing shoulder to shoulder with men and women who became more than comrades, they became family. And like family, she had lost some of them, carrying the weight of memories that haunted her long after the uniform was folded away. Claire had never asked for pity. She had grown up in a small, forgotten town, where dreams were often buried beneath bills, broken promises, and the long shadow of poverty. Her father left when she was young, her mother worked herself sick in a diner, and Claire learned early that if she wanted a better life, she would have to fight for it. The Marines had been her escape, her chance to matter, to belong to something bigger than herself. She had gone to boot camp scared, unsure, but returned forged in fire, her soul sharper than steel. She learned discipline, courage, and resilience. She learned to survive. But she also learned loss. Claire had been overseas when one of her closest friends, a brother in arms, never made it back. That day had carved a scar in her heart deeper than any wound. And when her service ended, when the world expected her to return to normal life, she found that normal didn't exist anymore. Civilians couldn't understand. Crowded rooms triggered her memories. Sudden noises made her tense. Nights were long, haunted by faces she could no longer call. And yet, she survived. Not with wealth, not with status, but with quiet endurance. She worked simple jobs, bartending, waiting tables, fixing cars when she could. She didn't brag about who she had been or what she had done. She didn't wear her uniform anymore, but she carried its weight in her heart. That night in the bar, she only wanted a drink, a moment to herself. But life has a way of testing the strongest people when they least expect it. The biker who tore her shirt didn't know who he was dealing with. He saw only a woman he thought was weak, someone to humiliate in front of his friends. But as the silence fell, and the tattoo was revealed, the air shifted. Claire looked him straight in the eyes, not with anger, not with fear, but with a calmness that spoke louder than any threat. It was the calmness of someone who had seen death and walked back. The bar, filled with men used to being the loudest in the room, grew quiet. Some of them lowered their eyes, ashamed. Others stared, their bravado crumbling. And the biker himself? He stammered, his hands trembling as if the ground beneath him had vanished. He mumbled something, a half-hearted apology, but Claire didn't need it. She turned, straightened her torn shirt, and lifted her chin. Without a word, she left the bar, yet her silence spoke volumes. She didn't need to prove her strength. Her life already had. But what happened after that night is what no one saw, and what makes Claire's story unforgettable. She went home to her small apartment, where medals sat in a box she rarely opened, and photographs of her fallen friends lined a shelf like ghosts frozen in time. She poured herself a glass of water, sat by the window, and thought about how people saw her, just a simple woman. They didn't know she had once saved lives, carried others on her back, or watched friends breathe their last in her arms. They didn't know that every day she woke up was another quiet victory over despair. And yet, in her quiet way, Claire inspired. The bartender who saw what happened that night later told the story to others, and soon whispers spread about the woman with the Marine Corps tattoo. She became a symbol in her town, not because she wanted attention, but because people realized strength doesn't always shout, it often whispers. The biker himself came back days later, sober this time, and asked around for her. He wanted to apologize properly. For a man who had lived his life on pride and toughness, it was the first time he humbled himself. And when he found her, working at a local auto shop, he didn't find judgment in her eyes, only quiet forgiveness. That moment changed him. Slowly, he left behind the reckless life of bar fights and empty laughter. He started helping younger bikers off the path he had once chosen. Claire's silent strength had planted a seed of change in him. Life didn't suddenly get easy for Claire. She still carried her struggles. The nights were still long, and the memories still heavy. But she realized something important: her story, her scars, weren't just hers to carry, they could be hope for others. And so she began to share, little by little, speaking at local schools, helping young people who felt lost. She told them that strength wasn't about fists or intimidation. It was about enduring, about standing tall when life tried to break you. And in that way, the woman who once wanted only to disappear became a light for others. The tattoo on her back wasn't just ink, it was a reminder of the battles she had fought and the courage she carried still. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Ripple of Hope. Every time you share or engage with a story like this, you help us spread strength, kindness, and inspiration to people who might need it most. Special request: comment below with the word respect if you believe silent strength can change lives.